Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin. You're tuned in to our podcast entitled The Secret War on Cash. I have with me my co-host, Chris Agelastos, and we've been discussing or covering over the course of the last several months many different topics. We've been talking about inflation. We've been talking about the crumbling value of our dollar. I don't think there's a better or different way to say that. We've been talking about job market, the real estate market. And we've also been talking about metals, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Oh, we talked about bricks too. We've been speaking about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But today we're going to talk about precious metals, and specifically we're going to talk about silver. And being in this, I got into the metals business myself in 1992. And, as I was first getting into it, gold and silver are considered to be sympathetic metals, meaning that they tend to kind of trend the same general direction. Silver costs less than gold, and the process as they're mining for gold, silver is kind of a byproduct of gold. It's got many industrial uses, as certainly does gold, but it's always kind of been the little engine that could, like everybody, gold gets a lot of the discussion, and for good reason. Like we've talked about central banks and BRICS, they've been buying up tonnage of gold. And, part of the reason gold is in the forefront of discussions is because, when you look at the just sheer physicality of it, if somebody's buying a metric ton of gold, the conversion of that into silver, that's a pretty serious storage issue somebody would have. You got to find a place to put all that stuff. But silver has been lingering, and now silver's starting to, kind of make a way for itself, with it now trading at nearly $30 an ounce. The bottom line is that, a lot of people have been watching it and wondering, is it really going to take off? And now it's kind of looking like it's heading that direction. Like this may be it, where we do finally see that big move out of silver. The long-term chart, as you see in the article here, now officially is demonstrating the most powerful bullish reversal in history. Mm-hmm. And this is a bullish reversal in silver. That's good in any market. A bullish reversal, that's great news. And there are a lot of factors that are driving this. A lot of reasons that this is taking place. So, is this really it, Chris? They're saying anywhere from as much as $50 plus per ounce of silver by perhaps the end of this year, which is literally a blink away, or maybe perhaps early into 2025. Is this it? Is it time? Is it finally happening?
I think so. There's multiple reasons for it, but really what this chart shows you is that we really haven't seen explosive growth since 2011. It's remained relatively stable, and we're expected to hit, like you said, the $50 target sometime in the next 12 months. We're really not far off that now, considering all the momentum that has been, building, especially in the last several years. And so I think what this shows is we haven't seen the launch yet. We haven't seen the takeoff. We've been building pressure for quite a while now. Excuse me. And it's not to say that it won't be volatile. I think, while we're playing around in this $32 to $40 range, before we get up to 50, we're going to see some ups and downs. But again, that doesn't really matter if you're a long-term investor, meaning, if I buy silver today at 32 and it goes up to 38 in the next 6 months and comes back down to 35 for a little while before heading off to, 40 and 50 a year or so from now, it's not going to matter, because I'm buying it and I'm holding it. All I care about is where it's headed long term. And most of our clients, that's how they're looking at it as well. And so one other thing I want to mention that they talk about in this article is that the last 3 periods we saw interest rate cuts, which would be around 2001, 2002, 2008, and then 2020. We saw an average of 332% rise in the price of silver. And we're in a period of time now where we've had some interest rate increases over the last couple of years, and now more recently this year. some drop in the interest rate, and we're hoping to see more of that going forward. So if we saw that 330%, I mean, that could take us to $100 an ounce silver. So let's say they're off by half, and it's not really that good, then $50 silver, $60 silver, that's still very, very reasonable in the next 12 months.
Right. Well, and I think what's important to note is the fact that, first off, this should come as no surprise to any of us, that China is one of the biggest purchasers out there of silver. And for those tuning in, we're not talking about buying contracts or things of that nature. We're talking actual physical metal, getting your hands on the goods, if you will. And so with China at the forefront of their purchasing the metal, and the one thing that, it's pretty universal at this point, the experts, the analysts out there, that they're all saying this is coming. Like, it's not, there hasn't been that I've seen anybody who's saying, yeah, well, you know what, it may do that, but it probably won't because of this. It's like all the stars have aligned. And, again, thinking back to, Kevin, when I started, in this marketplace in 92, gold was hovering at less than $300 an ounce. And to think even, today, and granted, it's a lot of years ago, but just this year alone, we've seen out of gold a, what is it, a 40% move, give or take.
Yeah.
And which is what we talked about going into the end of the year. This same, just like they're talking now, silver doing this is the same conversation we were having about gold literally 12 months ago. So,
Right.
And that's where, if you're taking a look at the second article here, they're saying silver is so much bigger than 2011. They talk about the rally it had in 2011 and how, the reason it didn't sustain itself is our economy was so much healthier then, which is kind of scary in a way. That's how bad our economy is. It was 2011.
Yeah.
You start looking at the factors as they break it down, the shrinking supply, the soaring demand, the industrial uses, and then they get into it. It's a store of value. I mean, the reasons that seem to be stacking up as to why it's going to move and the benefits. What would you say, Chris, for those tuning in, like in your opinion, what's one of the biggest or best reasons that someone should have silver in their portfolio?
Wow. Well, a couple of things. I think, like you mentioned, we've seen a huge rise in gold prices this year, and we haven't seen that yet with silver. And when metal prices move, it usually is quick and drastic. And so when we talk about silver prices potentially doubling over the next year or so, that sounds like a big feat. But if we look back at history, when silver does move like that, or gold, or a lot of investments, quite honestly, it is usually with a sudden and sort of volatile burst of energy that these prices go up. And so when we look at where we are now versus 2011, again, yeah, not to say 2011 was a great economy, right? But we didn't have much inflation yet. We didn't really have a lot of manufacturing demand for silver like we do today. And so, fast forward where we are now, we've had 3 years in a row of silver deficits due to manufacturing. A large portion of that is solar panels, like you mentioned, in China, but also here in the U.S. We have more inflation than we had back then. We have more bank problems than we had back then. I mean, the last year we've had several major bank failures that have all made the news, and we sort of swept a lot of that under the rug. Didn't really fix those problems, so we may still see more issues from those particular failures, let alone new failures that we may see in the next year or so. We've got a lot of world conflicts going on right now. Not least of which is what's going on with Israel and also in Ukraine. And we've got more quantitative easing likely coming because the Fed is out of tools. They can't really do much more other than inject more money into the system. So when you take all of those factors, then add to it that we've got about $100 trillion or so of U.S. investors' money between stocks and bonds. and we only have a couple $1 trillion worth of mined silver in the history of mining, you could see that if just 1 or 2% of the investors out there pull some of their money out of stocks and bonds because of all of these things we just mentioned, you can see right there how that alone could cause silver prices to skyrocket. So
Sure.
I definitely think we're at the beginning of the run. If you haven't already bought some just to secure yourself a position, then I wouldn't put it off much longer, because I think it is going to happen like gold, where it's fast and furious. And if you haven't already gotten in, you're going to regret it down the road.
Right. Well, and another thing, Chris, we don't have time to get into it today, but that doesn't, it really, in these couple articles we've looked at that are discussing, these positive forecasts or prognostications for what the price of silver is going to do. The one thing they don't even mention is, you really don't hear much about it. Every once in a while it'll raise its head, but you have the shortage of physical metal in comparison to what they have out there in silver contracts that trade in the COMEX. And it's a severe shortage, like a crippling shortage, and a problem, like literally almost like a fraudulent problem. And the point is, I was just having a conversation with someone here a few days ago and talking about this issue, because silver's already making a move without that issue coming to the surface. That issue, however that ultimately weighs in, or whatever toll it takes, it's not going to cause the price of silver to go down.
No.
It is going to cause, it could cause a amplified increase in the price of silver when variable or that situation makes it makes its way into the marketplace. So there's just so many things that are literally lingering out there, and those tuning in who follow markets, as we all know, like it's the markets, when they make that move, it's you can kind of get a feel or an expectation or anticipation it's coming, but when you don't know when it's coming. When it comes, it's there, and it feels like at every turn that's where we're at right now. And so, as you mentioned, as Chris mentioned about getting into silver, if you haven't already, contact us, taking advantage of this phenomenal introductory offer that we have for the Walking Liberty $50. You should absolutely do so. It's the price is priced to put a product in your hand. For those of you from a marketing standpoint, it's what's called a loss leader. It's to put product in your hand that you can get inexpensively. There's a limit on the quantity, but we did this understanding that there's, to many people, much of their investment life has been spent in the more traditional avenues, such as stocks, bonds, mutual funds, work with a money manager or a wealth advisor, and getting into physical metal is new. And so we wanted to put something in front of you that, number one, has a very low price point, and it's something that is priced at a tremendous value, and you can experience like getting at least-wise a position started, and then make your decision from there as to how much further or how much more you want to continue doing that, which we would suggest getting yourself diversified, where you have a percentage, maybe it's 10, 15, 25% of your asset base that you have in metals, so that, heaven forbid, but as it seems likely, something does kind of break out there in the economy, you've got something to fall back on. So to take advantage of that offer, you can contact our office at 1-800-289-2646 or visit us online at swissamerica.com. So, Chris, thank you for that, and thank you for those of you tuning in. We look forward to having you tune in again in the future, as we hope to bring you some more interesting and pivotal news. If you're not subscribed to our podcast or following us on social media, please do so. Chris, thank you again. Have a great rest of your week, and for those of you tuning in, please do the same.
Yep. Thanks a lot.